Welcome everyone to another Ecosystem Aces Pro panel. We're excited to get started. It's just a couple minutes before the top of the hour. I'm going to step out and let everybody gather and see a bunch of people are joining already, and we'll be back. I'll be back in about a minute. Hey, welcome everyone. It's the top of the hour. I see people are still gathering, so I'm just gonna give it another minute here. And welcome to our next Ecosystem Aces Pro panel. And I'll be back in just a minute. Hey, welcome everybody to another Ecosystem Aces Pro panel. This is our 5th Pro panel, and I'm really excited about the session today. We're going to be talking about a topic that I know, gosh, we have, first of all, 366 people have registered, so it's a hot topic, talking about partner programs, and we're just going to dive into it. Go ahead and announce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to hear. And we have a great program started. Okay, gosh, a ton of people will register. This isn't even half of the companies that are here, but we just put some logos up just to share a little bit about who's joining today. And we always love just hearing from and having a lot of different partner folks that are part of a lot of technology and software, hardware, telecom organizations. So love having everybody join us today. We'd also really like to have you participate. So please do introduce yourself, add your photo into your profile so people can see who you are. When you ask questions, we love to have you ask questions in we'll be following the chat, and I can bring up your questions up onto the screen, and you can ask our guest panelists to their questions. You're also going to go, if you're not in the stage tab, then you're probably not hearing us actually, but that's where everything is going to be happening, in the stage tab. And we are also live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we've got the links right there to go check it out if you want to share that with any of your friends and colleagues that you maybe didn't register and you want to just quickly get them in. Hey, before we start, I wanted to share a couple of a few things that I think would really be helpful. Again, we have QR codes on here, so you can just sort of snap them with your camera. But I think it's 45-page document on partner co-selling. Co-selling is such a hot topic these days. And so it's chock full of a lot of great information all about, how co-selling. How do you co-sell? What are some things that best practices, tips and tricks, things to avoid, and just a great asset for everyone. We also have a case story here from MindTickle. MindTickle is a customer working with co-selling with AWS, and they've done a phenomenal job. Really, able to do a lot more co-sell referrals, and saving everybody a lot of time, and putting a platform in place to grow their referral volume with AWS. And then we also have a guide document on, everybody's trying to figure out the economic, the challenges that we have and where things are going, so it's just a really good couple of page document on things that you can do as you're thinking about partnering in tough economic times. And by the way, I have to mention today also that we have a couple of really interesting things that are happening today. One is International Women's Day, and just we love, glad to have Joe Rose here representing, and we're all here as allies as well. So welcome to International Women's Day. And then also it's Holi today, so get out your colors and spray some color, and we'll have some fun. So again, before we get started, I just wanted to share a few thoughts from some industry experts.
It's not going to come through our MarTech stack, and if we don't have the technology to do that at scale, there can't be humans, tracking this. And if we don't get in early in the cycle, we know we don't win. It's got to be a piece of software like Workspan that can, orchestrate all of these moving parts.
The winning qualities of Workspan, I know I listed many already, but it was not only, the native integrations you have with CRM tools, but it's also the network platform that you have. The fact that when we looked at our over 100 alliance partners, more than half of them were already on your platform. And that mattered to us. One, because the partners that we respect also have trusted Workspan for their activities, but also the fact that it would be just that much easier to use Workspan as a tool because half of our partners are already on it.
Today, we have over 1,000 sales plans on Workspan with our partners, 200,000 opportunities. And we're really leveraging Workspan to make sure that there's a common understanding of where we're at and where we're going around individual sales plans and individual opportunities. And it's really creating that transparency that we need in this very complex world.
Have to enable our frontline sellers that co-sell is a natural motion. And so Workspan as a solution is really important for us to do that. Without Workspan, right, we're either building our own set of tools, we don't want to do that. And then secondly, we don't want to go hire, a huge deal desk, right, to manage this. It has to be part of how we, go to market through our channels and through our frontline sellers. Without solutions like Workspan, that feels quite impossible for us because everything's manual.
Fantastic. Love hearing from folks about challenges and opportunities. So, okay, let's get started. And I think, Kevin, let's bring Joe Rose and Philip and Wayne in. Okay, awesome. All right, welcome, guys.
Hey,
Glad to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah. So, I want to just do a quick introduction for everyone. So, just really excited to have everybody joining today. So, Joe Rose Theracon, Director of Partner Development and Strategic Global Partnerships at Microsoft. Many years at Microsoft, 11 years, I think, now, Joe Rose. And so you've and prior to that, you actually started out your career in financial services like Goldman Sachs and Nomura, and gosh, quite the credentials with an MBA from Yale, and just terrific accomplishments. So love to have you here.
Thanks for having me back. It's nice to be part of the continuing Workspan ecosystem ACES tradition.
Fantastic. Yes, and a good point, Joe Rose. We did an ecosystem ACES many years ago. I think from the show floor of Sapphire.
Sapphire. Yeah, I think
from the show floor.
2017 or 2018.
Yeah,
feels like a long time ago now.
I know. I think we're finally getting back to shows, so that's fun. And then Philip Sack joining us. We have a very international group today. Philip is joining us from Melbourne. And that's the skyline of Melbourne in the background. And Philip, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Philip.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah. So we're excited to have you here. Philip is, for the last 8 years, you've had your a consulting practice around partnering, Collaborare. And you've been, and prior to that, you were, with Philip was with Oracle for 11 years, and Sun prior to that for a number of years, and then actually for the last 13 years, I think you've been the president of the Asia Pacific ASAP, Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals. Easy for you to say. So. Philip, great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
And then Wayne also it has hung out a shingle, I guess, for R2M advisory. And Wayne, you actually also were a previous Ecosystem ACES guest, and I think at the time you were with ASG.
That's correct.
At the time, yeah, and head of alliances, senior VP of alliances for ASG, and prior to that, Skytop, Informatica, HP Software, Mercury Interactive, and
it's going back.
Going back.
Going back some time, yeah.
So yeah, I'm just really excited that we have just a fantastic panel here today, and we are going to be talking all about partner programs. So a really interesting topic, and you've all either run programs, designed programs, built programs, rolled programs out, and so we're talking to the right group of people, and I'm excited to. Let's jump in.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we do, by the way, we do want to, I mentioned earlier, we want to get questions. So please do ask questions. If you're watching on either LinkedIn or YouTube, you can comment in there and they will show up through here and we'll ask the question that way. So our first topic is probably just a really, I think, burning kind of topic for a lot of people, which is metrics. So what are some key metrics to evaluate partner programs? And Philip, jump in.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind starting on this, and then I know our learned colleagues have a lot to add. But before diving into the metrics, the first thing I look at is, what are you actually trying to do as a business? So what are the business objectives? And then how do you design a program around those objectives to achieve your outcomes? And when I think of that, I think of two words. One is efficiency and one is effectiveness. So effectiveness, I think we spend a lot of time on. That's how effective you are at go-to-market, and that's where a lot of our sort of metrics land with our partners. It's all about driving value, go-to-market, revenue, measuring marketing, enablement, capability, etc. How do we do that into the field? But the other piece that's forgotten is that efficiency metric internally. So why are you doing that? And then how do you leverage your resources, processes, and capabilities? So you kind of at the top level need to look at both. How do I be more effective out to the market? And also, what am I trying to do to make my organization more efficient and leverage the limited resources that I often have, which is why you design the program. And then obviously you fall into defining those values and how that would operate. But that would be my first thought. What's the overall objective? How does it work for your organization? Then how do you become more effective in the market?
Really good topics, Joe Rose. It sounded like you.
Yeah, I'll build on. I agree with Philip. Is
often revenue and share are the North Stars or the goal of what we're trying to do through channel, through co-sell, right? Like it's the 1 + 1 makes it 3, makes it 4. But not just revenue, it's also share among partners. But I'll build and take what Philip said in a different direction. The metrics you set to define success end up driving the effectiveness, and what sometimes it goes the other way around. What you define as the success metrics ends up driving the behavior that you get out of the program. So the start with the North Star and keep reevaluating it to, at Microsoft particularly. And it's one of the things that makes partnering with Microsoft sometimes complex, but it's always kind of moving up into the right. The metrics change. The metrics of how we measure the effectiveness or the progress of how successful our partnership is, they change. They change almost on a fiscal year basis. You want to figure out what is that right balance, because you want to keep incenting the right behavior and the right outcomes from co-selling together, which though they may always be revenue and share, what is that second degree of revenue and share that you want to be measuring? What are some of the activities you want to see happen? Those to me are also important success metrics that we try to measure at least.
So you're saying not only the the ultimate measures, but also those sort of interim measures that might be activity based.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wayne.
Yeah, I'll continue on the theme and just drill down even a little bit further, right? Because I agree with what's been said. Definitely the North Star is revenue contribution and partner contribution, right? So, obviously you want to drive growth in your revenue and you want to increase the contribution that partners make to your overall business. But getting a little more specific, right, drilling down some common things that I've seen software firms do, and I've certainly done over my career, is some of the things you want to measure is things like, how many deal registrations you're getting in. Of those, how many are, net new partner opportunities, or some people use the term sourced opportunities. I think those are key activities that I've always measured. I'm a big partner add value, or in, I guess, Workspan's terminology, co-build, right? And that's really getting into offering development. And so I've always measured how many offerings are our partners bringing to market. So how many have developed, how many have you gotten traction with, how many have you built, go-to-market plans, and obviously pipeline and revenue generated off of that. Another metric that I always tried to measure, if you're co-selling, which again many of us do, is your direct sales and partner engagement. What activities are your direct sales doing to ensure engagement? Is it how many meetings are they having with their partners? How many account mapping sessions? Sales execution plans they're doing with partners. How much pipeline are they carrying with their partners? And of course, how much business they've won. I could go on and on. There's lots of metrics that we take. You can get into enablement and how many certified resources do you have, how they consumed your enablement. You can get into the marketing side and how many campaigns you're running, how many touches you're making, and all the conversion rates that lead through selling. And then I even had some cases measured, services attached and how much services or subcontract business you're doing with your partners. The key is, I think Philip said, is line it back to your business goals and where you are in the maturity of your program and what role you're asking your partners to play and in the grand scope of things. And the last thing that I really stress, and this is more partner centric, is getting an understanding of what the partner's success criteria is, not what
like
the
that.
vendors or the partner managers is, but what's success to the partner. And you learn a lot about their business models and what's important to them, and then feeding that. This is a great topic. We're going to talk for days about this because it's things you tune, right, to get the outcome and the behavior you want. Not only your sales team, but your partners as well.
Partners, yeah. That'll help motivate them, right? If you know what their goals are.
I always tell my partner managers, if I'm going to ask what partner success criteria is, and if that's different than what you're telling me, then we got a little small problem there.
And I think it's one of the more persistent, like, programmatic challenges, right? Like joint scorecards, like joint accountability. Do we actually carry each other's metrics? I mean, we definitely have to craft it. And I know that's, of the things we should programatize, that's probably one that, as a principle, a scorecard has to be joined. It has to include metrics from both parties. I would say very few partnership models today do that still, or have been able to internalize, because our institutions do tend to be very, based on our own viewpoint. But instead, what we often try to programatize is it the same set of metrics across all partner types or all partnerships, when really the metrics should differ based on the competitiveness of each of, or the competitive advantage of each of your partnerships. But in fact, we tend to standardize the wrong thing, rather than the principle of in every metric, is it actually a joint metric?
It's a good, they're both really good points. I'll sort of pick up on both of those. So I think you mentioned scorecarding, and for me, it's everything you both just mentioned, all the standard ones that are there, but they're going to be leading and lagging. The lagging are obviously the outcomes we're looking for. The leading are really important. I think you mentioned, particularly around solution development or marketing activities, enablement, capability. And then at the front of that, what are your strategic goals and objectives? And it sort of becomes a joint scorecard. And the point around it being, is there a possibility of making it joint value, so you understand what the partner really needs? And that's a defining value type activity. What's important for them, what's important for you. Now, these things are great when you've got a strategic partnership, but you can't do this with 10,000 partners. So the ability maybe to draw down and pick and select in a programmatic way what's important for them and for you, and to drive that is really important. And then with the other investments that you're making that might be a little bit more heavy, you can do that defining value exercise, and then create what makes sense for you, because it just doesn't scale across 10,000 partners.
And how often would each of you say you're reviewing those metrics? Is it, you're certainly in a QBR, right? So every quarter. Are you measuring more frequently than that, or is it even as as often as like
Depends on the
a
metric.
weekly cadence call, or monthly, or?
Yeah, it depends. It would depend. Sorry, Wayne.
No, I was just saying it depends on the metric, Chip, that you're
Yeah.
measuring, in the cadence or the dashboarding that you have against it. So
Yeah, it
pick a
depends on
metric.
the metric, and I would say it's also in technology. It also depends on, sometimes there are these tectonic shifts. Like we try to keep it. You need some level of predictability for planning and measurement, right? To some extent, asking people to deliver against a metric without giving the proper leeway for that metric to be adopted, tested, tried, and then delivered against is also unfair. However, for example, in the pandemic we tried to do it on a half year or on a fiscal year basis, but during the pandemic was one place where we said we feel we need to do it on a half year basis, and which involved sometimes changing the metrics and the programs associated with those metrics on a half year, quarter basis. So there are these tectonic shifts in technology that do force, I think, our industry in particular to need to do it more frequently, versus if I would think, for example, in financial services, partnering in financial services was much more defined over, we had the same metrics for 5 to 6 years.
So be flexible.
Be agile, be willing to,
Be agile. Okay, so we actually have a question that's come in. It's a really interesting question from Ruben. How long do you stick with a partner when they're not delivering on scorecard metrics? Good question. Tough question. Thank you, Ruben. Anyone want
to? I'm sure any one of us would be happy to take it. I'll start off. I think you got to look at your partners just like you would in any direct sales rep, and you're going to provide them with certain goals and objectives to meet. You're going to determine, their activities and their behavior to see if they can support it and if they're giving the effort to drive whatever that metric is. And at some point, if they're not, it depends upon the metric, but if it's one of those North Stars, right, you want to give them whatever your average sales cycle is, if you're driving revenue, and establish those objectives with them. And if they don't meet them in whatever your average sales cycle might be plus, 3 months, then just like you would with the sales person, you would talk about, drill into that, understand their activities. Are they doing the activities? To me, it's revenue, pipe, activity, right? If you're not hitting the revenue, hit the revenue, great, go. If you're not hitting the revenue, then what are you doing to develop pipe? And if you're not developing pipe, what are your activities? And so you have the discussion, the lock and load where the problem is. You ask them to address those problems, give them time. If not, you let go of them, right? You reinvest elsewhere. And I don't know how many partner relationships I've terminated. I am not a big fan of lots and lots of inactive partners.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're a drain on the company. They're a drain on the resources. They inflate what you do. I believe in very strong, committed partners who are working with you together to go drive. And if they're not willing to make the commitment and investment, why should I as a vendor? And so, yeah, you got to have those hard conversations. And I'll tell you, the most effective partnerships I've had are ones that I had those tough conversations with and walked. And you see what their commitment is when you tell them.
That's right. Wait.
Yeah,
No,
do
no.
they care or not? Right? Do they
Right.
like, okay, fine, see ya, or wait a minute, right? And
I would.
it's key.
Sorry, Wayne.
No, go ahead.
Before ladies first, because I can see you're itching to add to this, but I wanted to say something because
Go ahead.
It is International Women's Day, Philip.
yes, I know. And lucky we have you here on board today. What I'm hearing though, a little bit around the question and some of the comments though, it's about portfolio management. So, where can you allocate your scarce resources? And you have to make calls on that. And so does the partner. They need to understand where you sit in their portfolio as well. And, what investments are you going to make? Do you continue investing along that time frame? But I would look at what's happening from a competitive perspective. So, who is your partner working with from a competitive perspective? What's the defined value you both went into the relationship, chasing? There could be some very unique value either organization has to each other. And why is that important? And then, as you mentioned, timing. So how long will you allow this to ferment or precipitate to get there? Because the lagging indicators obviously are all the pipeline, the revenue, the deals, etc. You may need to invest up front to get there. There needs to be a situation where both organizations, if you have a scorecard and it is an invested relationship, where you can have that open dialogue, whether you're meeting once a month or once a quarter, to understand what needs to be tweaked and that you both can balance the investment that you're making. So it should be bi-directional.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Philip, speaking along the lines of what I was going to say, I don't think it's about terminating. It's exactly, I would say, the way we think of a mentoring relationship or a employee-employee relationship. It's two-way, partnerships are a two-way street. If the conversation is we're now terminating the partnership because of non-performance, then honestly, you've probably also done something wrong. It should, a true partnership means you're organically getting there where both parties are sitting at the table at the fifth or the sixth partnership review after you've tweaked a number of things and saying, is this no longer serving the partner business plan that we had originally put in place? The reason we formed this partnership is no longer working. We're not getting that value from each other. Because it should never be if you're having to just say like, we're going to terminate this partnership because you haven't performed against our scorecard, something went wrong way before. So it is tweaks.
That's true.
Tweaks along the way for sure. But it's also maybe asking the question at this point, is there something else that our partnership brings to each other versus what we've been metric against? It's matured, and therefore, that the velocity we had, which is why we set those particular success metrics, have expired. And maybe there is new value to be brought to each other. Maybe it's P2P at this point. The more valuable thing is, could this partner be introducing more of the ecosystem rather than, and I'll give you a live example. For a long time, we measured, I think just as what was the industry standard was lead sharing, like who brings us more leads and who brings us more pipeline. And honestly, over time, it's become less about lead sharing and who brings more leads as who do we co-sell with? Who do we together feel? And, it's still kind of it tends to be the industry standard. Everyone kind of says like, my other partner gives me like 50 additional leads. And everyone kind of gets into this, like who gave me more pipeline, but it's not about who gives to each other. And it's not about who introduces or who it's how do we show up together in front of a customer and how do we actively co-sell, perhaps sometimes each driving, our own revenue, but do we have systems and ways to track that versus lead sharing? So the metric may, need to also be rethought, because if non-performance against metric might just mean that metric has now expired. The value of that metric has expired.
No, that's such a great point. I mean, I think co-selling, it is, and these days that's what it is kind of all about, right? It's because you got your solution. It's not just your partners are selling your technology. It's you have technology, you have services, we have technology, and we're going to go together. And maybe there's another, maybe there are 2 or 3 others that are participating in this sort of overall solution. So great point. I heard somebody chiming in, but maybe, you know what? This has been a great topic, but we've gone quite a while on just this first topic. So
We're just getting started.
we're just getting started.
It's going to be a 4-hour panel.
So let's actually, let's go to this topic. I think this is what are some good tactics to keeping partners engaged with your partner program? And yeah, probably co-selling is one of them, Joe Rose. Just like very actively engaged. But any other thoughts on this topic?
I think,
designing your incentives right the same way as you design your metrics. I mean, at the end of the day, tactics, incentives are maybe the first and foremost tactics. We are all human. We're all salespeople at some core fundamental level, and honestly, you have to be incented to the right behavior and to participate in a program. We live in an era where there's lots of competing priorities. Why does your partner prioritize your program versus the hundreds of other things they could be doing? I think you actually owe it to them to incent them, and that incentive should be designed based on, as Philip or had said, they're what's important to your partner. What is it that they need to drive that, or what do they need to show to their organization that makes them want to do it through your partner program? So I'll start there and then I'll hand the mic over.
Yeah, clearly, I would agree 100%. How do you keep your partners engaged? Well, first you partner and help them win business, right? I think that was mentioned a little bit earlier. So helping them build their funnel, helping them co-sell, helping them, enable them so they can win, and being there and co-selling with them to help them win business. Nothing keeps a partner engaged like helping them build a vibrant funnel that they can close. The other thing gets into the program benefits. Help them be profitable, right? Put your incentives in the right place so that it's not only, hey, I can reach the market faster, quicker, and better with some new capabilities, but more importantly, I can make money doing it. So always be aware of your benefit structure and the profitability that you're bringing to your partner. And profitability isn't always just about the incentives. It's about how easy are you to do business with? How much do you help co-sell? How much drag does your product bring? Can you wrap complementary solutions, et cetera, around whatever the solution set you're bringing? Being transparent and honest. I mean, I don't know how many partnerships I've seen go awry just because people weren't fully transparent, or they said what they thought the partner wanted to hear versus being very direct and honest. So you want to treat them like one of your employee. You want to include them in everything you do, whether it's your marketing strategy, your sales execution plans, your sales forecast, your service teams. You want to expose them to your leadership. You want to create advisory boards and roles for them to participate in. Include them into the culture of your company. And finally, be predictable and be fair, right? I don't know how many times I've seen people change partner programs just to change partner programs, and the partners, don't even know how they make money anymore, or they're not predictable, or the new leader comes in and changes something, right? Just help them drive their business.
Help them navigate.
And be fair and be predictable and transparent.
Yeah.
Philip,
I'd agree with. I probably have sort of 3 more macro level thoughts. One is recognition, and various devices to sort of recognize what people are doing, and to some degree, creating poster children or people that can be looked at by others, particularly in the partners. You can't lead a horse to water, but a horse will go to a drinking water hole if it sees other horses drinking. So if you see success, you replicate it, you promote it, you're genuine, as you said, and you're transparent. It sort of creates a little bit of its own noise in the market. They can see success, they're making money, they're profitable, you're being transparent, but you're actually celebrating that success, creating the poster children. I think that's sort of really important. The other obviously is depending on the level. So there's obviously sort of the volume programmatic type engagement, but at more the strategic invested level, all the things we just mentioned before about governance, regular meetings, scorecards, and, you know, just building that social capital between both organizations at different levels. I think that's really, really, truly important. You can have that structural capital, but you need that relationship capital happening, you know, together. And then that builds a level of trust. It builds more momentum behind what you're doing. But the other thing too, I suppose, is can you make your engagement with your program really partner friendly? What's the experience for the partner? Mm-hmm. And is there a way where you can orchestrate that to be a little bit more simplified? And that's really difficult because we do live and work in a complex industry. So just thinking through maybe backwards from the partner's perspective, you know, what can we collectively do to make that experience a little bit simplified? Do we need to invest in resources and training? Can we streamline what we're doing? Just make it a little bit easier for them. There's obviously the volume type activity that's underway, but is there a way where you're competing with others and you're a better organization to deal with because you're more simplified in some respects? And once again, you can't do that for every single individual relationship, but so having that outside lens looking in is really, really important.
Yeah, so many great points, Philip. And I love the one that you started with, which is recognition and, you know, so showcasing partners that are doing the right thing and that are being successful. I think that's really just a great point. And there are a lot of different ways to do that: blogging, or, you know, quotes in a press release, or at events, speaking at events, and all those kinds of things. So that's a great point. Got a question that's come in from Norma Wattenpaw that I thought was a really good one that we could touch on. It's a great question, Norma. Thank you for jumping in. As partner economics are shifted to services and IP, how are your incentives changed to reflect the decreasing relevance of margin on unit sales? Wayne, I see you nodding.
Yeah, that's a great question, because one thing is certain in our marketplace: it's dynamic and it's changing. And, you know, technology and COVID really has put increased pressure on this, right? As more people move to the digital buying journey that our customers are going through, shifting to being able to not only discover solutions, but evaluate them and now purchase through marketplaces. The resell, not as many partners are reselling. Reselling is really becoming challenged and not as prevalent. What is happening that I've seen is, you know, ecosystems. You know, if you're a platform provider, you know, building a vibrant ecosystem and leveraging that ecosystem is critical. And partners are now playing more of an influencing referral role in the marketplace. So yeah, what I'm a big believer in is your structure does need to change. It needs to be either more fee-based or investment-based on MDF. There's a question later about different models for how do you deal with an SI versus a traditional business partner. You know, SIs don't take fees, so there's other investments that you make, right, to help ensure that your partners are aware of your solutions, the value they bring, and they're bringing you into at least a short list for recommendation, and then rewarding them for that. So that incentive should be in essence, the transfer of cost, whether it's a transfer of cost of marketing or customer acquisition or value-added selling or taking some piece of the sales cycle, or doing the resell, should it be resell, or even the services. So your benefit or your incentive to that partner should, in essence, be representative of the transfer of cost that they're taking from you, and probably a little more. So the shift has been more to referral or upfront investments based upon what role that partner is bringing, or partners, because many times there may be multiple partners in the deal, bringing to the overall sales cycle. So yeah, incentives have changed quite a bit. No longer really focused on margin. It's really focused on the value and the cost transfer that partner is bringing. And this is from a vendor perspective, right?
Yeah. And great points, Wayne. And I think, David chimed in earlier, but I think it's relevant to what you said, is that there are different there was one of the topics that we wanted to talk about. Actually, there are different models, whether you're ISVs or SIs or resellers. So really interesting.
I'll just add, to completely agree with the previous point and question of, we have really rethought our incentives moving from, it was, CSP margins, reseller margins, often end customer investment funding to help our services partners, so we invest with the customer and then they don't have to take as much on their margins, or same with ISVs. But it has moved away a lot into how do we invest and provide incentives that our partners can invest back into their company as a whole rather than on a specific deal. And there's good and bad to that, right? Like there is one about making the margin economics of the deal. But we have found that the kind of the tertiary and the quadruple effects of instead incenting things that invest into the company's objectives as a whole. So skilling, upskilling, it's both been beneficial for us and, gives, then there isn't this push for pass through, which, our customers are smart enough. They figure this out. They're tuning into all of the same partner programs. So they figure this out and it just it's a quick run to zero. And so we've been really rethinking like what are true partnership incentives. They're more GTM funding, co-marketing funding, not very deal specific. It does come with needing to think through then, what is it on the deal, because so much is focused on channel and co-selling. But we have, that's one approach we're taking, at least, to think through, instead of things that are directly margin, can we build our partnership by investing on things that are, attributable at company level objectives.
Yeah, I'd probably just chime in on Norma's question, and just hats off to Norma. She's an industry icon, and I've known her for about 10 or 12 years through ASAP. But I think if I roll the question back one level, it's a structural question, because the industry's changed significantly and we're moving to subscription-based models, annuity streams, and it's quite different now, particularly for the intellectual property owner, if it's a vendor, where instead of that upfront deal, you're spanning it over 3 years. So the engagement with your partner is a little bit different, because they're not just a systems integrator, they're actually a service provider. And they may also be adding their own IP. So they're a solution provider once again. So it's difficult then, because your incentives sort of have to align to the structure of what that business is, but also what are you trying to do? If they have 3 different models of how you're operating with them, how does that then drive value into the market? And are you flexible enough to work around that as well? That shift to sort of cloud and subscription has been significant, and it's changed a lot of organizations to be they were sales and resell before, they're more services orientated in the marketplace as well. And the components of that delivery is just as critical as they were before, but the revenue recognition is expanded over a longer period of time, and there's a few tricks around that.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I brought Patricia's point up again, Philip, as you were talking, because, that's so true these days. It's, you get SIs that are, creating IP, and then you've got, resellers that are all turning themselves into service providers and, doing a little bit of both. And you've got marketplaces, and, so there's a lot of disruption and a lot of changes, and, the market dynamics are changing, and so everyone is kind of reacting to those changes as they're happening. So a lot of change. So
I'll tell you, this is a great one, because I've seen so many people try to shoehorn a program into a partner versus understand what the partner's business model is. Right? You got to really understand what that partner's business. How do they make money? What back to the partner success question, and then what are they playing for? Right? What are they trying to strive? Are they playing for services? Are they trying to build IP? Are they just looking for to expand their reach and co-sell, or bring on a complementary solution? Or on a technology provider, they're probably looking at, how do I bring my 2 solutions together to reach a bigger market, or fill a gap, or add a complementary capability? And so all those have different, they all play they're all partnering for different reasons. And Bill, I think you said it right. The trick is, how do I build a partner program that is flexible enough, one, to tailor to each business model, And secondly, many of these partners will have more than one business model. They may do integrations or do traditional referral solution provider work, and on the other hand, they may have an MSP and a managed service offering, which is a totally different, business model for them. So you can't have this kind of one stamp all, partner
Yeah.
program. Partner programs got to be able to tailor to, again, what that partner's business model is and what they're playing for, and then the incentives got to support, and your program's got to support that.
So Wayne, I think that's a really good sort of transition into another topic that we wanted to talk about, and we're sort of touching on it along the way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. So how are programs customized based on partner types and / business models, right? And capabilities, whether it's you can't necessarily say, well, this partner is this type. They've got these capabilities. They're doing these kinds of things. Anyone want to jump in on this topic?
I would say it starts with because we're in this age where every partner is a bit of every type,
Everything.
or we are seeing that.
Yeah.
You kind of start with your own tiering, and I keep coming back to like maybe two ways of going about it. One is, how is that partner most useful to you? You may need to take your lens first and foremost. So like, where would you tier a partner? It may be an SI going over into ISV, but are they predominantly valuable competitive advantage to you in your partnership relationship as an SI? Then maybe you keep them in the SI bucket. You may want to do that in conversation with the partner as to like, where would they like to be? So you got to tier them into kind of the right group so that the right program information is getting targeted based on there. The other way is just to give them the option of electing into. You have kind of this smorgasbord of options of programs, and you allow the partner company to elect in with some qualification criteria into the programs we want. We've kind of over the years played around with both types of saying, would we have ISV programs that we do open, even if we tier somebody as an SI. It may also be different in different markets. You could say, in Germany, there is a piece of IP and this company behaves as an ISV in Germany. So are there Germany specific partner programs that we would have someone? So two ways I've seen actually both work. One is, it helps from an efficiency standpoint. If you as a company have a point of view of why you've entered into these partnerships and therefore why this partner is most valuable to you. So you kind of, to some extent, want to keep them in their lane. But it does allow you to be efficient. It allows you to free up them to make the decision of, we have a different partner who is our services partner, and we have a different partner who's our technology partner. Or I've seen the other way work too, which is allow folks to, honor those choices, let your partners pick which programs they elect into. And you do need to put in a little bit of qualification vetting so that it's not, you just sign up for the sake of playing in all programs, but you're thoughtful about which of these programs can we actually make money from and will be of competitive advantage to us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just picking up on the food theme there, the smorgasbord theme, and maybe thinking of this as a restaurant. So if we think of it as a restaurant, it's going to be impossible to have so many different business models. You can have a set menu, and here's the styles of things that you can choose from. You can have a la carte and design your own, meal for the day, or you can just go all you can eat, and it's, everything's available. But I think your point around having the ability for them to pick, multiple ways of engaging with you is important. But just rewinding back a bit, because I know it's frustrating for the partners, but for the vendor or IP owner, we're coming back to that word efficiency again. You can't do everything for everyone, so you have to make some tough choices. And you probably do need to give people some set menus that are easy to digest, of volume, can produce the programmatic engagement and consistency with how you deliver value, but be flexible enough for them to opt into the a la carte. And then I think you mentioned, Jose, qualification criteria as well, just so that, they're not getting involved with something that's not good for them, or you're not going to be able to deliver what they want. But you can't do everything for everyone, but you need to be able to be reasonably flexible with what you can offer from your restaurant.
I would say, I'll just add that in my experience, the more mature your partnership is, or the longer standing it is, when both parties have a better understanding and are in a rhythm of business where you have a good idea of where each other's business models are changing. So like as you're going through this evolution of potentially, going from one partner type to another to each other, and you know each other's roadmaps, then it's actually more efficient when each directs the other with a set point of view of like, this is where we want you to partner, and these are the programs we want you to leave. Each party to the partnership brings a point of view. It's more effective. When you're recruiting at the early stages of a partnership, I think it is more important to allow self-election into where do we think we'll find most value. Let us show you, both parties, we want to have these kind of programs. We'd like to enroll ourselves as an ISV. But as you learn each other's business, you end up being able to, it's the wrong term to use, but you end up being able to put people in the lane where they're most valuable because you know each other so damn well at that point.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We had a number of topics, and I'm looking at the clock as well. But there's a topic I think that we've touched on some of them, but I thought this would be a good one that we have not really touched on yet, which is, why is internal and executive buy-in essential to creating an engaged partner program? So executive buy-in, but not just executives, really, sort of, because partnerships touch all parts of the business, right? From strategy to product to, marketing, sales, service delivery. So how important is that sort of internal buy-in, executive buy-in to your partner program?
Critical.
Yeah.
It's critical. Yeah. In fact, if you don't have executive buy, I've seen so many partner leaders, program leaders, or sales leaders, however you want to characterize it, lose their role because their executive didn't have buy-in or didn't understand what it took to build a successful, vibrant, scalable partner program.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely critical to have an executive who understands what it takes to do what we do. I mean, it's probably the most complex function known to mankind within technology. I mean, the skill set that you have to have in all the cross-functional business. I mean, you touch every piece of the business, right? So that internal buy-in is essential, because it took me a while to understand that the only way I was going to have success in building and scaling programs was to, in essence, get stakeholders in every single business function committed to partnering. And that's one of the keys to success in building a partner program. And that's every function: finance, services, deal desk, marketing. I go around every function, right? And then I learned to ask the executive, right, to delegate a committed resource, a dedicated resource to the partner program, and not have it report low into the organization, but report into the CMO, right? Because it gets filtered down if that partner resource is low, especially if you're not pro-partner when you're starting to build your program, which you wouldn't be building if that was the case, right? So that's critical. The executives got to understand, how long it takes for us to do what we do, depending upon the maturity of your partner program. I mean, geez, it's like hiring a new sales force or building a new go-to-market for a market segment. You've got to recruit, aka hire. You've got to enable. You've got to build pipeline and create the go-to-market. You've got to then ultimately get it to the point that you close. And at some point, if you're lucky, right, and you do it right, you'll get the ability to have predictable, repeatable revenue out of your core partners. And that takes time, and executives need to understand that, just like it takes time to enter a new marketplace or hire a new rep to turn them into productivity. And by the way, the partner doesn't have to sell your solution, so that makes it even more fun, right? And then I'd say the last thing is that executive and those internal stakeholders have to understand. I'm a big believer that if you can't create solid rules if you're co-selling, right? If you can't create solid rules of engagement and channel neutrality in your compensation, to not only your sales teams, but to your services teams, you're probably going to fail too, right? Or you're not going to scale as fast as you'd like. So if you don't have executive buy-in as a partner leader, run. That's my advice. And don't take the role before you sit down with the CEO or someone and ask, some of the questions you need to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's many other comments on this one.
Since it's International Women's Day, I'm actually going to use a comparison that,
Yeah.
in some ways, it's not just for the program, but I'm going to turn this question a little bit into creating an engaged, partnership. It has to become culture, honestly. And for something to become part of culture, like everybody will always set up direct sales is just obvious. Partnerships is not obvious. It's usually the add-on. Which, and similar to diversity, it's usually the add-on. You build your workforce, and then you start thinking about diversity as an add-on. Or you need an exec, you need a sponsor, a champion with somebody. Tony says it very rightly, somebody with the purview to look across the company, who says, who helps sponsor that partnerships are core to the culture. So you need that. It's exactly kind of, I think of it a bit as like, you need someone to champion diversity. You need someone to champion the value of partnerships, having a partner program mentality, because everyone needs to participate in the partner program for it to become part of your culture. So the executive buy-in, somebody who's cross-functional, absolutely necessary. If that's not, having over time, having a chief alliances officer, a chief partner officer, if that's not part of your North Star, then maybe it's an individual single partnership for a very specific purpose. But if you want to make that culture, then that's a role you're going after in the long run.
Yeah. Well, then the question is, how do you build that culture into the company?
Like any culture, it does not happen overnight. It happens
Right.
with trial and error and persistence. All of the same issues that we face on anything that needs to be culturally adopted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you, Patricia.
There you go, Patricia. Thank you.
There's a lot in all of that, actually, that you both just explained, and I'm glad we've added another hour to our video call today to continue the conversations. Just coming back to, and I agree with the previous comments and both of your points of view. I think we're talking about executive buy-in. I think that would probably lead more to a strategic invested relationship that you have, where you're both sort of, you're setting up the governance, the scorecards, the investment together. But it can also operate at that sort of volume programmatic level as well. You need the buy-in both within your organization for the partner, and the partner needs the buy-in within yours. So I would just agree with what's been said and just flip to a how-to, and I'd get out some stakeholder type mapping and plot on both sides of the organization where people kind of lie with it, in and amongst maybe a survey or something else, but just really understand who are your supporters, who are the detractors, and who are the ones that haven't made up their mind. And this then bring about some sort of mapping where you can bring people on board. Don't try and convert everyone, but bring in the right people at the right time to build those relationships. And I mentioned social capital before. It's important that occurs. You need an escalation point, you need a sponsor point, you need something and someone who can operate across the business as well, and really be the champion for moving forward, how you're both investing and driving outcomes together. So a little bit of thought around mapping that, and not being afraid to know that some people in your mapping quadrant will be detractors and you just might need to leave them. Go grab the champions and use the champions to help you convert the rest.
Absolutely.
Terrific, Philip. Everyone. So maybe just in the last couple of minutes, how about technology? Where does technology play a role for rolling out programs and scaling and those kinds of things?
Well, often the front door to, you decide to become partners, you decide you're going to, you enter into a partnership agreement, you set your metrics, and then you're going to interface to measure that somewhere. And so the front door, or the way people on either side of the company's experience is some technology interface. That's your front door. That personifies your partnership in many ways. I mean, the executives may agree on the partnership and the partnership model, but what most people think of as the day-to-day partnership is some technology platform that they work in. It's the connection between CRM tools. It's how people report their metrics. And so to me, that front door is really important. It's actually where a lot of partnerships go to fail, because we make it complicated, and it's not, it's usually not a core product, because partnership isn't often core sometimes. And so the investment in building what that front door is usually comes later. It's not always prioritized as an engineering resource. So I'm, grateful that we are at a place where I think this has become a core function, and there are companies like Workspan, and there are, advisories focused entirely on the business of partnership. This is becoming a very, the ecosystem is becoming a very core function, the way marketing is, or finance is. But it's extremely important, because I think it can't be stressed enough. That is how most day-to-day doers experience the partnership, is through some platform. And we often don't think of it, because it's the equivalent of saying, like, is it a back office system? But no, actually that is the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, I've overseen at least 4 PRM implementations. I don't know how many point solutions, and so thankful that this market has evolved in the last 2 or 3 years, and to a lot of thanks to companies like Workspan, right? What we do, it's been said over and over, is very complex. And people don't think of partners first when they design their core marketing and sales technology stack. So you're often shoehorning in, and geez, it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't even coexist with CRM solutions. And thanks to companies like Workspan, right, you've enabled a lot of partner interoperability that just didn't exist, and you're hand building or doing things on spreadsheets. It's come a long way. In fact, we really can't do our job without it, right? Because as ecosystems, as stated, becomes more and more prevalent, and people really see the value, and oh my goodness, we can scale our business, and especially if you're a platform product, it's a necessity today. So, it's beyond a portal in today's world, right? You've got to be able to accommodate incredible volumes of deal registrations. You got to be able to do account mapping functions and share account lists. And when you can compare 2 Salesforce environments or 2 customer lists automatically, and use technology to bubble up those things are unique, lead sharing, co-selling, offering management, enablement, even, providing cloud labs for your partners to experiment in or innovate around. And even just simply paying them, right, and getting their benefits. How in the world can we do it without technology? Chip, would be my question. But I'll tell you, it's a maze of solutions. Having a single platform is challenging. Then convincing, right, your IT team and all those stakeholders that you're going to come in and give partners access to all this data. And we have third parties looking at stuff. That presents a whole other set of complexity. And you want to give them single sign-on to what? Right? What about
security reviews and all that? Yeah.
This data, anyway, it's thank goodness for companies like you guys that help us tackle some of this.
Well, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Joe Rose and Philip. This has been just fantastic. You guys have shared so much and brought so much value to folks that are watching today. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for joining and just bringing your expertise.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks, everybody.
Been fantastic. And everybody, love to have you take our survey and just let us know what you liked and what how we could improve. We always want to improve. So with that, I think we'll sign off, and Chip Rogers from Workspan, and thank you to the panelists, and thank you all for joining us. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.